Ladies and gentlemen, howdy and aloha. We are here, you are there, and you are now rocking with the best. Thank you for tuning in to another live episode of Airey Bros Radio. Tonight we're getting back on the mats and we're going belly to belly with returning guest Coach Ryan LeBlanc, the new head wrestling coach at Sunny Binghamton University, to talk all things Bearcat wrestling. Coming home to upstate New York, building culture in the EIWA, and what's next for the program. Before we get rocking, you all know the drill. This is a value for value show. So if you're getting any value out of anything we're doing over here, please click on that link, buy us a coffee. Make sure you hammer that like button and are subscribed on YouTube. Drop a comment. Every view, review, and share helps us grow and get back to the sports we love. Follow us on Instagram at Airey Bros Radio. Subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And as always, this episode is fueled by Black Sheep Endurance for all your ultra marathon and nutrition coaching needs. Let's not forget why we're here. We're here to shine a light on the programs, coaches, and athletes we wish we had access to growing up, going through the recruiting process. If you're a wrestler or a parent looking for that next level fit, you're in the right place. On to tonight's guest, Coach Ryan LeBlanc. He is the eighth head coach at Binghamton, coming home to upstate New York, as I mentioned, to lead the Bearcats. Some of his highlights: the 2024-2025 season, they were the Southern Conference champions while he was at the Citadel. He led the Citadel to a school record 14 dual win season last year, coached 8 NCAA qualifiers and 5 SoCon champs. He's a former Big Ten standout at Indiana with 103 career wins. Coach LeBlanc, it is an honor and pleasure to have you back with us this evening. We do greatly appreciate your time. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate what you guys do for wrestling and having me on. I always enjoy the conversation and just love that you guys support wrestling.
We appreciate you, and we're excited to hear about your new role, see what you got going on with the Bearcats, how the season is going. But before we get too far into it, Coach, anything you would like to plug or promote, anywhere you want us to send recruits, anyone that has questions about the program, if you want them to find you directly on social media, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I would love to. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, or X, and Facebook at Binghamton Wrestling or Binghamton Wrestle, I believe, is our handle. We're pretty active on social media, trying to keep people up to date with what is happening on a consistent basis. And then Bearcat Wrestling Club is our USA Wrestling Club. So those are the two places that I'd encourage everybody to go follow, like, share. If you're interested in Binghamton Wrestling, that's a great way to find us.
Coach, I will say, when we saw the job get opened up, I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit because the Army job and that job opened up at the same time. I said, Ryan's going to Binghamton. He's going to Binghamton. And once he got it, Rich hit me up. He's like, "You're right, man. You called it."
Yeah. It was tough. There's probably 6 programs in the country that I was interested in, all close to family. I spent 10 years away from home and 5 years as an athlete away from home. And so, um, I've always had my eye on this program and it just seemed like the timing was right. And I don't know. I didn't necessarily want to leave Charleston. I finally got that program to where I didn't want to leave, and then but this was a tough opportunity to pass by. Just for a multitude of reasons on things that I've wanted to do. In my career and my life, it just aligned with a lot of those things.
You said you got the Citadel rocking and rolling, and you haven't been home in 10 years. Does it feel like the hero's journey, like you're coming back, college wrestler, college coach, and now you're coming back home?
Yeah, yeah, it's a little surreal, right? Like, I mean, this is a program I grew up around. I was born in Binghamton, New York. Um, and so yeah, like, there's days where you're just like, when you were a little kid, like thinking that I was going to be the head coach at Binghamton University is like a dream, right? So like, I'm just incredibly grateful and fortunate to be in the situation I'm in. And I kind of feel that way about every program I've been part of, from Indiana to Cortland State to App State to the Citadel to now Binghamton. It just seems like, just a lot of luck goes into it, right? When there's so few jobs in this market and to be fortunate to have people entrust me with the roles I've had, I just really, really blessed and fortunate to be in these shoes and yeah, it's a little surreal at times.
Coach, how you said you were born in Binghamton, but how far is mom and pop from the university? Are you still pretty close? Or like, are you really close to home now?
Yeah, pretty close. My
Yeah.
parents are about an hour and 20 minutes away.
Okay.
My parents own a small farm in Morrisville, New York, which is kind of really small town, upstate New York. Um, but yeah, like it's a quick drive, and then I got a brother in Syracuse, New York, and my other brother's in Salem, New York, and um, my one of my sisters lives in Morrisville, and the other lives in Hamilton. So um, it's I'm an hour to 2 hours away from everybody, which is nice.
So this Thanksgiving is going to be a big deal, huh?
Yeah, yeah. All
Yeah.
my siblings will be there. Um, and yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting to be able to find that balance in your life too of to win at this level, at Division I level, the commitment that you have to put in as a coach is, unreasonable at times. And so to be able to find that balance and hopefully, have those important things in my life, right? Like everybody has, you can't just coach wrestling. There's other parts of your life. And so to feel like those I'm fulfilled in those ways, I'm just really, really fortunate.
Yeah. Hey, you said it was tough. You'd gotten the Citadel really rocking and rolling, and you got that where you wanted it to be. Um, but we also know, talking with you and some of the other coaches from some of the military institutions, academies and VMI and stuff, there are some unique constraints that go along with those institutions. What lessons from that time at the Citadel transfer directly into the blueprint for Binghamton?
Yeah, I mean, so many. I mean, the things I learned a lot at the Citadel. I think just that, you can do a lot of things over time, right? If you're doing the right things for the right reasons over a long period of time, things tend to fall into place. And so it's just consistency and trying to build a culture and community around your program. I think when we started doing that at the Citadel, all of a sudden we started finding opportunities and things that were a no in the beginning started being a yes. And I think that's where you see change. And then things that I learned is, there's no excuses, right? Like when I got to the Citadel, I think we had 13 kids on the team. It was COVID. The program was kind of in shambles. Um, and like I just remember being a first time head coach, being like, what did I get myself into? Right? Like how, like this is like, maybe this was a terrible idea. Maybe this was a mistake. And so obviously I'm taking over a program that was a lot more established. But just knowing that there's proof of concept, right? Like I've done it once, we can do it again. And Binghamton's actually in a pretty healthy place. I've got a handful of really good wrestlers in our program right now, and my predecessor had some things in place that helped him. So I get to take those and run and try to build off them.
Coach, you said you had a good handful of wrestlers that were already there, already established. What is your mindset coming into a team that already kind of set in their ways, already doing certain things? Are you trying to change that or just add to what they do?
Um, so I guess there's two things that are always on my mind. It's one, like I'm not a believer in like I'm going to make the most with the group I've got. Like I think as a coach, that's your job. I think when coaches complain about the athletes they have, it's like, well, that's why you got a job, right? So it's like I'm going to get to work and I'm going to try to get the absolute most out of every single kid on my roster this year right now. Um, and I will maintain that attitude from start to finish. But to say that I'm not changing systems and implementing things in our program and in our culture would be, like we're going to make changes and there's that requires a little bit of friction and so, you know, uh, we're going to kind of work through that. I guess, does that make sense?
Yeah.
But like, I think that was something I learned at the Citadel. Like, my second year at the Citadel, we had Dejan Casto kind of break through, beats Austin O'Connor first round of the NCAA tournament, in his first national tournament ever, and kind of puts us on the map, right? And he was a guy that was at the Citadel prior to, never qualified. Um, and he kind of was one of our first believers, right? He started believing and working at an extremely high level, and then kind of was part of that spark that helped kind of build some momentum behind us. Um, and I'll tell you, we got a couple kids in our program right now at Binghamton, um, that are very reminiscent of that. I'm just like, man, they are they got a lot of ability and they're working at a high level, and I think we're starting to channel that, and I think we're starting to see that, right? We've had 4 weeks. We got a couple kids with some national wins, and it's coming, you know. And I've always been a real believer that you see it in the practice room first. And we got a couple kids that I've seen it. I'm like, it's just a matter of time until they kind of realize some success.
Gotcha.
Do you have resources at your fingertips that you didn't have at the Citadel, or were there things at the Citadel that you don't have now that you'd like to bring in?
Yeah, good question. It's just different. So we just got a big scholarship increase at Binghamton University. They added 40 new scholarships across all programs. It was a huge endowment, kind of a program changing endowment. So we've got a great scholarship budget at Binghamton. Um, Obviously, being in the region, being in New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, within a 2-hour driving distance of all those places. Um, I mean, just our pipeline for recruits is really strong. Um, and then, at the Citadel, we had me and one full-time staff position. At Binghamton, we have a full staff. I have a full staffed program, and that people are invested in wrestling. So things like that I have. There was things at the Citadel that we built over time that I don't have here, right? Like I mean, we had tremendous alumni support. We had a great camp system at the end. So we had opportunities for our kids to train all summer, um, and we got a lot of kids on campus and things like that that aren't really in place here, that we're going to have to work on. But they've been in place here before, and we'll build them back again.
Coach, you were hired. Remind me when exactly you got. Was that in the summer or was that in the spring?
It was September 11th,
Oh,
actually.
okay, September.
Um, yeah.
So everyone that's on the roster right now is pre-existing from the last year.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
It was obviously a tough timeline. So it was like,
yeah,
the interview process took a while, and then um, just that the timing of there's things you can't control, right? Like the my predecessor left late in and kind of for personal reasons, and kind of created that opening. And so yeah, I'm not gonna, the transition was tough.
yeah.
And the hardest part is when it's like, oh, I really cared about my kids at the Citadel. Like, I mean, I was all in for those kids, and so it's tough. And then yeah, you're coming in and you don't have a ton of time to build those relationships. I feel like we're finally just getting settled, which is nice. And you know, the last 4 weekends, I've really learned a lot about the kids I have in the program, and kind of what they're about, and learning where their strengths and weaknesses are, and how to push them and motivate them. And it all comes down to building those
Yeah.
relationships.
Well, we're 4 weeks in. You guys have had wrestle offs. You've had two or three opens. How's the season going so far? Is the roster, is the lineup solidified yet, or there's still some question marks in certain weight classes?
There's a couple question marks. We're starting to see some guys emerge. Um, we need to put our best lineup on the mat on December 12th. I think we got Bloomsburg away, and then we have LIU comes to us. I think if we can put our best lineup on the mat, I will have a tough team. Um, we've dealt with some early season injuries. We've had some guys out that are coming back. Nothing that's going to be nothing season ending at this point. But we've had a couple. Just like any college wrestling season, we got a couple injuries. Um, and so we're kind of working our way through that and we'll see kind of how it goes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, we talk about injuries a lot. Wrestling's just one of those sports where, you gotta get physical to get better, and injuries are just a part of the sport. What is the keys to keeping guys healthy, especially earlier in the early parts of the season?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, so I inherited my schedule for the most part. And I guess I think scheduling is important. I think the way you schedule is important to try to make sure you get your kids what they need. And right, like depending on where a kid is in his career, the needs are different, and you need to try to accommodate that both ways. I think training year round is really important. I think I think I think there's a lot of things that go into this. So I'll just kind of go from one to the next. I think training year round is important. I think keeping kids in shape to be able to, I think when you're consistently on the mat, I think your body adapts to that. I think when
Hmm.
you take extended periods off, I think that just creates injury. Um, I uh I think the way you wrestle is important, and I talk about that a lot in our room. And I think that's one of the things that is going to be is a steady change that we're trying to make is like I think you can wrestle a style that keeps you healthy, and I think that's as important, when you think about development over the course of a career, like staying healthy is a huge part of that. Like staying healthy, getting reps. Um, and there's certain positions where it's like the way you fight the position is important, and you need to really think about that as a coach and you need to get your athletes to think about that and say, hey, like um, there's a time and place to, right? You got to fight for every point, but there's a strategy behind, hey, like you got to be able to give up one to get one and stay alive. And if you're putting your knees and shoulders at risk every time you compete, like it's just a matter of time. Um, and so, I think you hear quarterbacks talk about like throwing the ball over the middle, right? It's like, man, like if you're playing Ray Lewis, you probably shouldn't throw the ball over the middle, right? Like it's kind of like the same thing. Like, man, if you roll around in our sport, like it's just a matter of time until it catches up with you. So, um, I think implementing a system that's designed to keep kids healthy and then educating them on why you're doing it and why you're making those decisions, right? Um, and then getting to know your athletes. Like you're always going to have some athletes that have wrestled in certain positions their whole life and they've got to feel there. And and they can, and you got to trust that. And when you build a good relationship with your athlete, you can kind of figure those guys out. One person who stands out to me, we had a grad transfer, Jeffrey Boyd. He's actually an assistant coach at Gannon University with his dad. Um, Awesome kid. And I think if you talk to his dad, you should try to get his dad on the podcast. He Jeff, I mean, his dad would tell you like he just he could put his knee and leg in some of the worst positions and was totally comfortable and could do it every day. I'd see it every day in practice. Like I'd have to stop watching him because it would stress me out. Um, so, I think as you get to know kids, you get to know the ones who can, they've lived it long enough to where they understand the positions and they can do that. I guess that's like the individualized approach. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
absolutely. Well, I just took over a cross country program here first year, talking about building relationships with a new team and a new program. What have been some of the keys and maybe some tips for building those relationships?
Yeah, I think just time and effort. I think like there's no secrets. Like I think you words matter, right? You got to talk and communicate with kids. You got to meet them at their own level. You got to genuinely care about them and genuinely try to get to know them. You have to know them outside of wrestling. Like I think, if all you care about as a coach is like, hey, like, can this kid win a match for me? That relationship is just not going to be very good. So I think when you get to know, I think fundamentally my job as a coach at Binghamton University is to try to get our kids um, to to accomplish all their goals in life, right? Like you come to college to get a college degree that prepares you for the next 40 years of your life. So, getting to know what your kids really want out of this experience and understanding them, I think is the most important thing. And that just requires time and conscious effort and continuous communication with them. Um, I don't think there's any secrets.
Coach, you brought up some points I want to touch on. You mentioned the wrestlers knowing when to give something up, and I will be at a testament. I walk around like an old man now because I was a kamikaze funk guy, and I had no regard for my body, but I'm feeling every bit of it now. So I can agree with you there. And I had some older wise coaches try to calm me down, but I was into what I was into then. So you also bring up building relationships and not just caring what the kid does on the mat, but having a relationship with him no matter who he is on the team. Have you ever had a situation with a kid where you're like, man, I just don't like this kid, and you were able to grow a relationship with him and kind of understand him and kind of teach him some things?
Yeah, yeah, I got a kid that comes to mind who ended up, get this. So my first year at the Citadel, I had a kid, Ethan Willis. I shouldn't say his name, but wait. Um, we just like had different personalities. And Ethan, to his credit, he was cutting way too much weight. And so he's cutting too much weight. And I'm like, like I kind of wrote the kid off a little bit. In to his credit, he comes in, we have this long conversation. We move him up to a weight class, and but we had very conflicting personalities, and it was like oil and water a little bit. And it took me probably a year to like really like get to know Ethan. And then when I got to know him and understood like where he was coming from and just understand his personality, and then we removed the massive weight loss, which definitely helped everything. Um, he ended up being a 2-year captain for me. He's a guy that I stay in touch with now. Like I learned to appreciate so much of like the opposite thing. Like his personality is so different that he would when he turned into a leader and a captain for us, he would connect with people that I struggled to connect with. And then his strengths um helped my leadership because it balanced us out, right? He was a free spirit. Um, he could really connect with kids on a deep level. And then he was a tremendous worker. We just had to get him out of that weight loss. Um, but that was one of those where I think early on I was like, man, this kid's not going to make it. And then he ended up being one of the kids that I had and just to this day have an outstanding relationship with and learn to appreciate our differences, especially when he took a leadership role. Um, I was really, really glad that we didn't, I didn't cut ties with him or kick him off the team or anything like that. And, he ended up just blossoming to a great leader, had a great career at the end and, was just an awesome kid.
Thank you for sharing that and being so transparent. I appreciate that. Coach, we know being a head coach, you're CEO of a small business. How does that position look different at Binghamton?
Well, it's still mid-major wrestling. I think it looks, it's very similar in some ways. Obviously, you remove the military piece here. And that piece is a blessing and a curse, I mean, the things that they were trying to get our kids to learn, like fundamentally, like I believed in, I think like hard work, discipline, those things. But there was challenges that came with that and a time commitment that came along with that. So that's very different here. Our kids really, they can really focus in on school and wrestling, um, which creates a more traditional experience. Um, but as far as like being a CEO and managing all aspects of a program, like that doesn't change anywhere you go. I think if you're going to be an effective leader, especially today, you're going to wear a lot of hats. You're going to have a lot of things that are coming at you on a consistent basis. And you gotta really have a set core beliefs and values. You gotta have a decision, you gotta have a matrix for your decision making that is you can make decisions fast. Um, and then you got to do the things you don't love to do or find somebody who is good at those things that you're not good at. Like there's only two ways. You either commit to do growing and learning new skills, or you find somebody who's really good at what you're not good at and you treat them really well.
Coach is doing the expense reports nowadays.
Who's doing them?
Are you doing them?
Oh yeah. Oh, oh yeah. Yeah. At the Citadel, I'll give Luke Welch a shout out. Luke booked all our stuff. I mean, I've always been on top of budgets and things like that, but I had Coach Welch did just a great job booking travel and stuff like that. And now I got new assistants and we're working through it and they're doing a good job. But you know, you you yeah, you start back over, right? Like, you kind of have the wheels moving, you also like just as a head coach at this level, it's like you kind of get in your routine like at the end of my time at the Citadel is like what everything's going to cost, where you're going to go, where your travel is, and now I'm in a different area, different geography, dealing with snow, right? Like things that you don't think of in the southeast. You're like, you don't worry about a snowstorm affecting your travel or things like that. Here you got to factor that in. Um, and you're doing different events and different tournaments, so you're getting used to that.
Mm.
Um, I like to be I love having a system. Like when I find a hotel I like and a tournament I like to, then you can build it and you know what to expect. You kind of know how to, um, it takes some of the work away. So I'm relearning that, redoing it, all that stuff.
Creatures of habit.
Yeah, exactly.
No Bucky stops on the road anymore.
Yeah, no, no, our kids love Bucky's. It does.
Coach, I'm curious. What's it like? What's the university like? I'm assuming it's a larger population than the Citadel. Um, what's the school known for? Majors, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, great question. So we're at like 18,000 students. We're a great academic institution. We're a top 25 public school. So in the country, so if you can compare you look at the Forbes list, the universities that we're next to are really, really impressive. We've got a great engineering program. We've got a great school management business program here. Um, and then, we've got a bunch of other majors. But it's a highly academic institution. I think it's like a 35% acceptance rate. So, when you look at universities, there's a ton of people who want to come to Binghamton and they get to be selective on who they let in, right? And so that's a different challenge. From here to the Citadel is you got to have strong students if they're going to get through the doors here. Um, but it's definitely bigger. But uh, hopefully
Yeah,
that is your
yeah,
question.
absolutely. If you take a look at the roster, it's predominantly New York, but you do have some PA guys, Jersey. I think there's a Florida guy in there, a Colorado guy. There's a guy from Wyoming. Is I mean, obviously New York sports probably dominates the conversations and maybe the trash talking in the room.
Yeah, yeah. People, obviously we're like anything, we're a regional institution and we're gonna like just like in South Carolina, I said, I'm going to prove to the country that you can win. You can have kids from South Carolina win at the highest level. And I think that's what we did, right? Pat Brophy and Thomas Snipes, those guys are South Carolina natives, winning, beating kids from Ohio State and Oklahoma State at the national tournament. People said we could never do that. I literally over and over, like you can't win with South Carolina kids. Well, we found a way to win with South Carolina kids. We're going to do the same thing here. I want to show that kids from New York State can win at the highest level. Obviously, that's a little easier. I don't have to convince as many people. People think that already.
Yeah.
That's nice. The kids, some of the, it's not as much of a, I don't have to will it into existence. Um, but that said, we got a kid from North Carolina who I'm really excited about. Gabe Rogers is committed to us. He's a senior. We got another kid from Florida, Nicholas Blake, who just had a great Super 32, was a high school All-American at NHSCA's. Um, Obviously, I have a lot of connections in the Southeast and Midwest. We're going to try to pull from everywhere, right? Like, I think one thing I learned about coaching at the Citadel is the older I get, the more I believe that if you find the right person, you find a kid who's got great morals, values, and loves wrestling and working, you can be good. You can be elite in our sport. Like I really believe that more than ever. I think my time at App State in the Citadel really, really, you know, helped me learn that, and I'm really fortunate to have those experiences and just that belief system, right? Like I don't think I just, I've seen it over and over again that you can win and come from anywhere. So we're going to be hungry to find those kids
Yeah.
from all over the country.
I'm curious, being down here for a couple of years now, and obviously the South is definitely elevating their levels when it comes to wrestling specifically, and even you see it more and more on the cross country and track and field side. But being a New York guy, us being Jersey guys, in your opinion, what is the difference between kids wrestling in the South versus kids in the Northeast?
Well, one difference I will tell you that is like, I mean, I got stopped at the grocery store last night by a kid I wrestled growing up in high school. I didn't even know him. I didn't recognize him,
Hmm.
but like there's a lot of fans in the Northeast. Like people really care about wrestling. It's just a little bit more in the communities, I think, in the culture at a young age. And so you have a lot of people who, you have a lot of great coaches, high school coaches and youth coaches, and these kids start a little bit earlier. And when it's ingrained in the culture, it means a lot. And if something means a lot to you, you're going to get better at it. And so I think fundamentally, I think that's one of the differences. Um, that said, I think there's great people doing amazing things in South Carolina, right? Like there's some high school coaches in South Carolina, like Robbie Bell and Ashley, Coach Powell, May River, like those guys um, are as good as anybody I've seen, and those guys are Southeast guys and they're doing great things. So I think that's what you want to look for. I just think there's a lot of that in the Northeast. I think it's like I look back at my childhood. I had two older brothers who wrestled. My dad wrestled in college. I grew up, we had a mat in our basement. Like my earliest memories, I remember being on a wrestling mat. And I think that's a really common conversation in the recruiting process with me up here, where in the Southeast, it was like, when did you start wrestling? Ninth, 10th grade sometimes. Um,
Yeah,
and so it's just, you know, you're just starting at a different place.
right. I also noticed too, you know, in Jersey, it seems like there's a wrestling club on every corner, and it's not uncommon for kids. And I don't necessarily know if it's a good thing, but kids will leave their high school practice and then maybe eat their dinner on the way to the wrestling club. Whereas felt like down here, maybe more of like the high school kids when they were in season were only doing high school practices and not necessarily going to club practices and getting that extra mat time.
Yeah, I think that's been a huge shift in the last 20, 30 years that the club wrestling has really, really, really got its grip on high school wrestling. And that's changed a lot of things and some for better, some for worse.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily think that's has all been for the better, but
sure.
some of it is, and kids are, you see it, kids are coming out of high school a lot more ready to wrestle at this level, in certain areas of the country. And some of those club coaches are, treating they're running college like wrestling practices from a young age. And so those kids are, they're coming on the scene and making a difference. One thing I'll be honest with you that I look for, obviously, I think if you get one of those elite club guys, obviously it makes your job a little bit easier, right? Um, that said, the second, third tier club guys, I'm going to stay away from. I'd like to see a guy who's found a way to be, competing at a national level that maybe doesn't have some of the exposure at some of those high level clubs, and he's found a way to do it in a small community. I think at the Citadel, that was one of the things we were able to do in identifying kids that, I hope to continue here. You look at some of the kids we have committed to us coming here, I think you'll see that these guys, um, have found a way to compete at a super high level without, um, some of them have great coach, I'm sure they all have great coaching, but they're not being spoon fed, they've had to really work themselves into that.
And I know it's early, but so far in the recruiting process, do you feel like it's a little bit easier to get the kids to come to you now, not having that military aspect?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I want to be as we'll put here's perfect example. We had 5 kids on a visit in the fall, all 5 committed to us. I mean, I don't know the last time I went 5 for 5 on a visit. Like I don't think that's happened to me in the last 5 years. Um, and 2 of them are top 100 junior recruits. Um, not that rankings matter, a whole lot. Like you check those credentials when you get to the college level, but we're all, as college coaches, we're all looking at them. We're all trying to get those kids that are winning or placing at national level events, right? And so, we had 5 kids commit to us too on the top 100 junior list in a weekend, and um, that's different. That's a significant change. Um, you know, we're going to have to develop them. I mean, I look back at some of the kids we had at the Citadel that ended up being great college wrestlers. Um, they weren't highly recruited, or they weren't highly ranked and stuff like that. And so, but they were the right people. And so I think that's one of the things, that I'm really trying to make sure that I do my homework and balance, because I do fundamentally think when you get the right people and the right kids who want to come for you for the right reasons, then good things happen. I think regardless of, you know, high school placement or rankings, things like that.
Coach, did you say at the beginning of the podcast you have 40 scholarships now?
The university added 40 for the entire athletic department.
All right.
So we got a substantial portion of that to our budget, our scholarship budget, but not 40. No.
Yeah, that's why I asked. I was like, 40, there's not even that many people on the roster. But that said, how much easier does that make your job having more scholarships to work with?
Yeah, it's huge, right? Like in the sport of wrestling, still, there's NIL has changed certain aspects of our sport. We all see it. But fundamentally, I think in our sport, most people are trying to, pay less and less for college. Like I think everybody's talking about NLI and all these kids. Like the 1% of college wrestlers receive money that's gonna be anything substantial. Most kids are still to this day taking on debt to get their college degree. So being able to provide financial assistance to high level athletes that's a great part of my job, and it's super rewarding, right? Like I was a product of that. Like there's no way I ever go to Indiana University without an athletic scholarship. There's no way. Like I don't, so I think yeah, it's great, and to be able to reward kids for their work and give them a college experience as a Division I athlete is awesome. It's a great part of the job.
Coach, you mentioned you went 5 for 5 in that early weekend recruiting weekend. Any Jersey guys in there?
No, not yet, but we got a couple on their way to campus. In 2 weeks, we're off. We're off next weekend. We got a couple of New Jersey kids. I think two coming up, 25 pounder and a 74, 84 pounder. Um, so we're definitely going to get into New Jersey. We got a couple New Jersey kids on our team right now that are doing really well. Um, but
I,
yeah, I mean, New Jersey just, especially like the 25 or, the lightweights through the middle. It's like they're so deep. Um, it's, it's really impressive.
how do you get a Florida kid to commit to Binghamton?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, so when you think about it, I don't want to tell all my secrets, but like pay attention. You pay attention to some of our out-of-state residents. Florida doesn't have Division I wrestling, right? Like, so
Hmm.
those kids unfortunately don't have a ton of opportunities. And that's a great state that's super dense with a ton of really high-level athletes looking for places to go, looking for a Division I experience. Um, and I think strategically as a coach, you learn that when you coach in the Southeast, like you have to get creative, right? Like you're gonna have to go find kids. And so there's a lot of states like Florida that um, you have opportunities to go in and get kids.
Yeah. I was just curious from a winter weather perspective. Um, that's got to be a shock to the system, that first
It's
snowfall.
really it was really funny. You know, yeah, we had a beautiful fall. Like if you've ever been to upstate New York in the fall, I mean, it is just gorgeous. Like
Yeah.
I don't care. I've been all over the country. It's as some of those days, it's like just picture perfect, blue skies, 70 degrees. You want to wear a sweatshirt, but it's sunny out and the leaves are changing and everything's green. Um, and I told the whole time I was like, hey, this is what it looks like year round. Um, and obviously we're saying it as a joke, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for living in a different part of the country for 4 to 5 years while you're in college, right? Like you learn a different culture, you learn you get to experience something you're probably not going to experience. Like I'll never regret my time in South Carolina, right? Like I don't know, it's beautiful there. And I really appreciate my time in South Carolina and North Carolina and Indiana. But um, so I think kids are looking for that, right?
Yeah, and we're big proponents of that. We've moved around a bunch, and we feel like it's a great, beautiful country. There's a lot of cool places to see, and you can always return home at some point, do the hero's journey. But there's a lot of interesting people out there to meet and learn and grow and become a little bit more worldly. So, we're big fans of that. And for the longest time, as New Jersey wrestlers, we're trying to convince kids like, hey, go someplace where it's warm in the wintertime, so you don't necessarily have to be freezing all the time.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm a huge proponent of that too. I think you open up your world, and I think that's what college is for, right? Like
Yeah,
you learn how to be independent and you learn how to, be part of a team, grow up, be on your own and figure things out and be confronted with people who have different views than you. I think all that is extremely healthy.
yeah,
Um, so yeah,
Coach,
and
sorry.
we're, no, I just we want to create. I think it's important for a team too to create. Like you think about a wrestling team like an ecosystem. Like if you just have too much of one thing, it's like I go back to the story with Ethan. Like I think the older I get, the more I appreciate people who are. I think that's what makes a really good team is when you have different personalities and different experiences. You put them all in, and if you get the mix right, man, it's like you see synergies come from it.
Coach, you mentioned that recruiting trip. Do you have a grasp of the campus yet?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing I did when I took the job is I made my assistants take me on visits, right? I'm really fortunate. I got two great assistants, Louis Dupre and Brevin Casella, and well, three, Micah Rose, all are Binghamton alum, all wrestled here, went to school here, all cool. Louis, two-time All-American, Brevin, well, he just was recently in the round of 16. He was ranked top 10 in the country last year at 174, and then Micah was 125, 133. And so I'm the outsider. I've got to learn, and I'm continuing to learn. But I've got three guys around me that know it in and out, and wrestled here, competed here. Um, so that has definitely helped bridge the gap and allowed us to be a little more authentic in the recruiting process. And I've just tried to I try to be as open and honest as I can. If I don't know, I try to refer to somebody who does.
How has it been becoming the boss of three guys that were already there?
Uh, it's been, to their credit, it's been really good. Like these guys, um, especially Brevin and Lou, they kept this thing going in between the transition. I mean, they took these guys to U23s. They did an entire, summer training block with these kids before I was even hired. My predecessor was out. And so I can't give those guys enough credit. I mean, they just like truly love this program, to a level that I instantly connect with. Um, it and so it's been good. And I think as a leader, it's your job to get the most out of the people you have. Um, you talk about things I've learned at the Citadel, like you're never going to be in a perfect situation. You gotta pick up and you gotta do the right things. And so um, they've been working super hard. They've been a huge part of the success that we've had. And so, we're I give those guys a lot of credit. Um, they've hit the ground running for me and have bought in right away, and it's been um transitions are always tough, and I'd say this has been about as smooth as it could be. I'd honestly say that those guys have done a really good job with it.
There are a lot of similarities between building relationships with new athletes as it is with new staff.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Um, and that's the job, right? Like, like you can't do this. Any head coach who thinks they can do it themselves, I think is is not it's not going to work, right? Um, and that extends from your staff to your support staff. Like, you got your assistants got to like you, to an extent. They got to respect you and listen to you, but they gotta they gotta want to believe in what we're doing. Um, and so that just requires time and effort in consistent communication, you know. Um, and I think fundamentally too, it's like, it's on me to get to know them and their aspirations and their dreams, and make sure that we're cultivating their opportunities, you know.
Yeah.
Coach, I got one last one for you if Rich doesn't before we get in the final four. Nothing to do with Binghamton Wrestling, but you're our first Division One coach we've had on this season so far. We've done NAIA and JUCO, but we haven't spoke about it. What did you think of the national duels this year?
National duels. Man, I think Ohio State was hot.
Yeah.
If you gotta be honest. I thought it was good. I mean, I tuned in. Obviously, it's tough. I try not to be like I tell people there's gonna come a time in my life where I step away from coaching and I get to be the biggest wrestling fan in the country. And I'm gonna go to every NCAA tournament. I'm gonna love every second of it. I'm gonna be a fan. Like I'm just gonna sit in the stands and have an opinion and all those things that you get to do as a fan. As a coach, I got to fight that urge, and so I'd be lying if I said I didn't watch it, and enjoy it. I thought it was some really good wrestling and a cool opportunity for the sport of wrestling to grow. Um, but I try to fight that urge to lean into it too much to let that seep into, my focus has to be with our kids and our guys and our program.
So with that said, I take it you're not checking out too many duels throughout the season. I'm sure you're pretty busy with recruiting and family and all those other stuff. So you don't really get to sit down and watch a match that you might be interested in.
No, I'll still do that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can't shut it off. I mean, yeah, obviously I still support like I'll always follow the teams that I've worked for, the team I wrestled for. Um and then yeah, and then you're always like, you're always paying attention to the bracket, to the top guys across the country too, right? Like, we got guys in the top 33 right now. And so you're trying to, you're always keeping an eye on what's happening and who projecting where you could run into people, and so what they're doing and what's going on. Obviously, there's certain weight classes I'll pay attention to a little closer than others, but no, I still watch a ton of wrestling. And you're always learning too. I think you're learning and growing. You never stay still too. So it's like watching the national duels. Part of that is, those are the best programs right now, and you're wanting to make sure that what are they doing? How are they, what are the consistencies you can pick up, you know? And I think there was a lot of those, especially with the teams that were doing extremely well. I think you could tell they're coached well and consistent from top to bottom. And so I'm always looking for those opportunities as well.
I got one last one. Coach, talk about recruiting and getting kids from the area and stuff. Are you checking the portal out at all?
Yeah, yeah. Good question. My philosophy on the portal is tricky one. I don't love the portal, but I'm not above the portal. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Jeff Boyd, I'm extremely happy I got him. Came, helped change our program. Josh Stillings, a guy who had a tremendous impact on me. Those are two guys from the portal, and there's more. And so like it in sometimes just cross-pollination, right? Being able to get a guy from a program like Jeff Boyd came from West Virginia and came into our program and did things differently, saw things differently. Um, over time coached with me, and I got I changed my perspective on certain things just with having that relationship and hearing, his experiences and things he took from the great staff that he wrestled for before me. So yeah, we'll always keep our eye on the portal. It's part of it now. It just is. It's part of the
Mhm.
business. And so my job fundamentally is to get the best group of kids I can possibly get in at Binghamton University. Um, I think historically I've always made a living getting really good high school kids and developing those kids. I think if you look at the best kids I've coached, that there's a pretty clear track record of developing those kids out of high school. So I'm always going to strive for that. And then we try to use the portal when it makes sense. When it makes sense, and it's got to be right. It's got to be for the right reasons. Um, we got a kid right now on our team, Mikey Squires, who's come from Princeton. I recruited Mikey out of high school. He's an upstate New York guy, right down the road from Binghamton. He's coming back. He graduated from Princeton, had a year of eligibility. He's going to use his last year of eligibility with us. I mean, what a slam dunk. Just an amazing person, doing it for all the right reasons, coming home for a year. Uh, the Ivies, he can't use the year there. Got into grad school. Just, I mean, think stories like that, right? Like those are the great side. But I think in the portal, you got to be careful. You got to make sure the kids are leaving for the right reasons, coming to you for the right reasons. And, you know, that's the way I look at it.
Good answer, Coach.
It's a tricky one. It's a
Yeah,
tricky.
it is. It is. Final four, Rich?
Let's do it.
All right, so let's see if some of these answers have changed since we've last spoke. Are you a coffee drinker?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
How do you brew your coffee and how do you take it?
I just a simple I've got like a ninja thing, a new coffee pot, relatively new in the last couple months. I had a Black and Decker coffee pot for years. Years. Thing was $15, had it for over 10 years, and then it finally kicked the bed. I do have a French press on a Sunday if I have enough time. I don't have a lot of time these days, but I'd prefer that. But I just typically, and then I just put a little almond milk in it.
All
All
right.
right.
Coach, do you have any daily practices, rituals you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of Ryan LeBlanc?
Yeah, absolutely. So every morning I try to take 5 minutes of my day and focus on three things that I'm grateful for. Like and really spend some time, write them down and go through that and sit with that to try to just appreciate the things I have in my life and start no matter how bad things are, start my day on a note like that. And then I try to do the same thing at the end of my day. I put three wins I had that day and try to regroup and um, think about those things. So on a daily basis, I think I'm doing those things. And then, I always try to plan my week uh, before the week starts, really looking at 7 days out um, and thinking about how to maximize my time. I think that's another thing that's really helped me on a consistent basis.
Doing that with technology, or you old school writing it down?
Obviously, yeah, working my calendar, my tech, on my
Yeah.
phone in office. But yeah, I keep a daily planner and a list every day. Um, you know, and so um, those things I think are routines and rituals that are have helped me.
I don't know.
Coach, what are you listening to right now? Music, podcasts, audiobooks? Are you reading anything?
Yeah, I just started into an audiobook, so I really like audiobooks. I think when I show up, I'll tell you. Let's see, I just started one. This is going to be cheesy. I shouldn't tell you. Uh, I've got Upside of Stress that I've been working through, which was a recommendation from the old Commandant at the Citadel. Um, and then the other one that I just downloaded, I haven't even started. Um, where is it? I'm just pulling up my audio. I haven't, Secrets to Manifesting Your Destiny. Yeah, you
Let's
can't make that.
go.
Wayne Dyer. Wayne Dyer is
He's the man, or
he
was the
is, man.
man.
You got to be careful. You start listening to Wayne Dyer in the morning, you get really excited about life. So yeah, I like some motivational audiobooks. Okay, like Good to Great, Growth Mindset. I could go all day. So I try to do that. I think that's something that's always helped me on my commutes.
All right.
Coach, I had a long period where I would listen to Wayne Dyer before I went to bed.
I have a lot of respect for that. I was even hesitant to say it because but I think and the older you get, the more you realize you just have to embrace it, and then you start running into other people that have the same philosophy as you, and you're like, oh, that you could build some good connections that way. So,
Coach, I'm gonna throw a really woo-woo one at you right now. But if you want to get super woo-woo, check out Waking Up in 5D by Maureen Saint
Oh
Germain. Now
boy.
yeah, it's out there. But if you're into that kind of stuff, if you get into Abraham Hicks or stuff like that, it's out there. I'm just telling you.
all right, what here? You're gonna have to. Can you text me offline?
Yeah, I'll send it to you. It's
Yeah, I'll
it's
I'll,
it's
I'll check it
super
out.
out there. Yeah.
Well, Wayne Dyer. So I don't know how I listened to Excuses Be Gone when I was like in college. Somebody had given it to me and I used to drive 12 and a half hours from upstate New York to Bloomington, Indiana. And so I would usually call all those people in your life that you know you should call, but you don't. And then so I go through that list and I'd have and it was great. You catch up with friends and family that you should, and you sometimes you neglect because you get busy. But then it gets late and then I would crush an audiobook usually. And that's really when I got into audiobooks. And that was one of the first ones that I listened to. And it's kind of out there, but it's got some really good stuff. It's got some stuff that to this day I think about when I'm feeling sorry for myself, and it's like it stops me from feeling sorry for myself.
All right.
So,
Coach, forgive me if we asked this last time you're on, but as a Hoosier, did you ever take in the little 500?
I I don't think I ever went to the race.
Okay.
But that's a huge deal at Indiana.
Yeah.
I think we tried to go to the race one year and it was like just storming out. And I think maybe I went. I genuinely don't have any memories of watching the race, but obviously that's a really fun weekend in Bloomington, Indiana. Being a student on campus during that is a heck of a time. And the community just gets really behind it and is excited. There's always concerts and things going on. I mean, it's a cool time.
Yeah. One of, well, at least I don't want to speak for Jimmy, but one of my favorite movies is Breaking Away. So that's,
Oh,
we
yeah.
always try to ask our Indiana alumni or people from Indiana if they've ever taken in the Little 500.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, everybody who goes to Indiana University definitely has fond memories of that week.
Okay. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Coach, last one. It's a lighthearted one to close it out. Well, maybe we should switch it up a little bit here because we've done this with you before. It is Thanksgiving season. You've got, Thanksgiving home with the family. Is there any Thanksgiving traditions with the LeBlancs? Is there any particular dish or side that you're looking for? Do you have a favorite dessert for the Thanksgiving day?
Yeah, I mean, my mom is a great cook. She makes just she just makes delicious pies. She's got great pie crust. It's all homemade. So always looking for that. But both my parents actually are great cooks and my brothers are. My family loves cooking up and down. So just being around family and cooking together and getting to enjoy that time is what I'm looking forward to most.
Okay. Are we deep frying the turkey, smoking it, or are we doing traditional?
I think traditional. That's a good
Okay.
question. I think we've done all of them, all of
Yeah.
the above. Like my one brother's, he's smoked everything, everything you can smoke. He went down that rabbit hole, got really into it. We've definitely deep fried it, and then I think traditionally, I think my mom usually bakes it though.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're, I'm in the throes of the season, so we've got a family group chat that's been going off crazy. My wife is doing our part. I think she's making some sweet potato casserole. Um,
Nice.
yeah, Indiana. So that's about what I know, if I'm being honest. I'm gonna kind of get to Thanksgiving Day and show up and
Show up and
just
eat.
get to hang out. I really get a good end of the deal.
Okay. And I guess on top of that, coming back home, was there anything particular like food, regional that you were looking forward to when you got back home?
Yeah. I mean, there's a pizzeria in my town and the town next door. It's like it's not good. If I go home, it's like, I hit that on the way there every time. So New York pizza, I know, it's just good. Okay.
Yep.
And it's all over too. It's like there's a lot of good spots all over. Hoffman hot dogs, if you're from the Syracuse area, Hoffman hot dog in the summer is really good. Speedy's in Binghamton, New York. Okay, that's what it's known for. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of food. I grew up on a farm. My dad's, he's got beef cows and stuff. So just dinners at home too, like just being able to go home for Sunday dinners, things like that are gonna be fun.
Nice.
Coach, that pizza place you're talking about in Morrisville, is that right on the main drag there, right by the campus?
Oh yeah, yeah, New York Pizzeria.
I've been there.
Really? You've been in
Yeah,
Morrisville, New York?
I went there for a semester.
Oh, that's right. You told me that last time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like the one spot in Morrisville. Like there's the
Yep.
fort and then there's the pizzeria. And so, for a really small town, and like Morrisville, there's one stoplight and there's really no spot. And that's what I mean about upstate like pizza in upstate New York. Um, it's just like, dude, it's really good and it's in the middle of a tiny town. You wouldn't, that you just don't have in the Midwest or the Southeast.
Yeah.
So
Well, Coach, it was great catching up with you. It was great following you at the Citadel. Can't wait to see what you do at Binghamton with the team. Gonna be following along, and best of luck.
awesome. Thank you guys. I really appreciate what you guys do and having me on again.
We appreciate you, Coach. We love hearing about the Bearcats, and we're looking forward to rooting for you this season. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. We do hope you have a wonderful celebration home with the family. And yeah, we'll be following along this season.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is Coach Ryan LeBlanc from sunny Binghamton. Make sure you go check out the Bearcats on social media. Give them a little love. Let them know the Airey Bros sent you. We will be back tomorrow afternoon at 12 noon. We will be doing a special NCAA recap. We will have some of the top coaches from Division III and Division II. And then tomorrow evening, we will be back again with our friend Jim Robinson to fill us in on the NJCAA Division II race out at Fort Dodge. The Lansing Community College team was the men's national championship champions for the second time in a row. So we're excited for those conversations.